Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Hello everybody, hope you're going well. It's a little bit more of a somber review today as we talk about the shocking docuseries Surviving R. Kelly, which goes into so much detail and first-hand personal accounts of victims, more importantly labeled as survivors of people who suffered abuse under the very famous R&B singer R. Kelly, spanning pretty much his entire career. This is a story where I was just so in the dark about. I only know or only knew of R. Kelly what pop culture had taught me. Like, I knew he was a hit artist, but I couldn't tell you any of his songs off the top of my head. But then as soon as you play me 2 seconds of his most famous songs, I'm like, oh yeah, I know it. I definitely know that song. Like, I Believe I Can Fly. Of course, everyone knows that song. And then Ignition was a song I used to have on a mixed CD in high school and used to play a lot. He was huge in the 90s and the early 2000s, and I knew he'd been in trouble for some strange kind of sexual stuff, but I didn't really know what. I'd seen skits making fun of him and where he was a character who would pee on people, and I remember seeing him in South Park being made fun of as well. So for all I knew, he had kind of like faded into obscurity and was a bit of a joke. And that just shows the power of popular culture to sort of like normalize and comicalize, if that's a word, such a huge figure like this, and kind of downplay the real severity and predatory nature of a really dangerous person. Surviving R. Kelly is a really in-depth look at the singer's background, his career, and the path of destruction that he left in his wake every single step of the way. It looks at his like God complex and his interest in underage girls, something that didn't just happen overnight, something that has been going on and growing steadily for decades. Musical genius, absolutely no doubt. This series does not dispute in any way, shape or form how talented R. Kelly is as a musician. Sexual predator, yes, absolutely. He is a disgusting, perverted sexual predator. Remember Aaliyah, his like protege who he was training and like producing music for, and who was like his ward essentially? He married her. Like, he married her when she was 15 years old and he was nearly 30. And on the marriage certificate, they forge her age to say she's 18. Like, what? And all of this story of who R. Kelly is built through interview footage of the people in the circles around him. So we're talking about interviews with his brothers, with his school teachers, with the young women who spent years in relationships with him, with his ex-wives. And then we also get to see it from an external perspective as well, through clinical psychologists and sort of experts in the field of domestic abuse and violence. So we're building a character portrait through first-hand accounts of people who spent years and years with this man and who, you know, knew him best. We're not hearing any side of the story from R. Kelly himself. So he's not there. We do not hear his side of the story. And to be quite frank, I'm glad. This docuseries has a clear bias. He is the perpetrator and he does not deserve to have a voice in this narrative. If you want to hear what he has to say and how he defends himself, you can go and do that. But this docuseries, we're looking at giving the survivors a voice of their own and their own platform to express the trauma, how they need to. We're hearing these accounts of these young women, not always young women, sometimes women in their 20s and 30s, but more often than not, young underage women who met him when they were underage, when they were 14, 15, 16, 17, really, really impressionable teenage girls who were meeting their hero and their idol, and they wanted to be singers and they wanted to be famous. What's even more disgustingly fascinating is the ongoing years of abuse that follow, that brainwashing that follow after, you know, what is just statutory rape. It's that the years of grooming that follow for these young girls, where this is how domestic abuse begins, as is explained in the documentary by the psychologist. You begin by isolating the girls from their family, so they're not allowed to speak with their parents. You start setting rules and boundaries for what they can and can't do. And then these girls have nobody else and they don't know any better or have the resources at their disposal to be able to free themselves from the situation. And it's just it all just kind of snowballs. It's something that is really hard psychologically to grapple with. You know, I also myself think, you know, why don't these girls just leave him? They're not chained up. If they want to walk out the door, they absolutely can, but they don't. And you think, well, why don't they just leave? And some of them do, but some of them are so ensnared by the abuse that they just don't see how they can. This is a really incredible 6-hour-long docu-series, and I highly, highly recommend anybody sitting down, if you're interested, to sit down and take the time to hear these survivors' stories. It's absolutely incredible and just continues to go down further and further into a rabbit hole of the culture, the societal culture that R. Kelly was able to build around himself and how he protected himself over many, many years and many, many court cases. Guys, they are my thoughts on surviving R. Kelly. Make sure you leave me your comments in the comment section down below. You can also subscribe to my channel and keep up to date with all things movies and TV. Thanks so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.